why is it so hard to forgive ourselves? And why do we not even know that we need to? Like, I think that's even a thing. Like, I don't know, do I need to forgive myself for anything? And there's such power in that, you know? Have you realized that there's anything you need to forgive yourself for? And what was the feeling? Why? When what happened after?
Just what's coming to mind is like growing up as an actor, you audition for something and you fail so many times. You get rejected time after time after time. And I didn't forgive myself in those moments. I rejected myself. I beat myself up. I criticized myself. I'm like, I've put in so much effort and I'm getting so little return. And I'm like, ugh, I'm a failure. I'm wasting my 20s. Da, da, da. Like, I'm not forgiving. I needed to forgive myself in those moments. I needed to realize that, like, so it's an energy of like releasing the pressure off the valve, and then you show up in the world a lot more confident, present, loose, and people then want to hire you, whether you're an actor or a plumber or anything else. It's like when we're so punishing ourselves over and over for little things that don't even matter to the rest of the world. Of course, bigger things when you hurt someone or you, again, because you haven't taken care of yourself, so you've reacted to something, you've let a trigger get the best of you, or you make a mistake, you make bad judgments. You know, I just feel like we need to be taught how to forgive ourselves and how important it is. And I feel like that's why we are in the state we are today of this cancel culture, because we beat ourselves up so much and we hold ourselves to this impossible standard that, like, we have to beat other people up and condemn other people because, again, there's this like pressure valve of all these things we're stuffing down that we haven't accepted and we've been hiding because we're so ashamed and we haven't forgiven ourselves, even though, again, in the grand scheme of things, they're little things, or they're things that we thought were so massive in childhood, that were so devastating and life-changing. It was like not a big thing, but held it down, turned the valve long enough, those things fester, those things get moldy, those things get compounded. Mm-hmm. And so all of that to say, I think we need to learn to forgive ourselves in the moment so that we don't suppress so much shame and guilt. Mm-hmm. And as we learn to do that to ourselves, I think we're going to live and see and experience a much more forgiving, not cancel culture-y society and reality.
We're treating ourselves that way, which inevitably means we treat others that way. Like what we judge in ourselves, we judge in others. So forgiveness for ourselves is the way to start with it. And I think that would be a really powerful tool to transform so many things going on. I mean, let's talk a little bit about like masculine, feminine. I feel like I'm always on this topic. I'm very curious about that. When we're talking about forgiveness, like, there's I interview a lot of guys these days, and I'm really curious about this patriarchy sort of theme. I'm curious about the masculine, feminine. Like, I'm thinking, do we forgive men for being in power? Like, what does that look like? And how do we forgive ourselves for not standing? I mean, there's also an opposite, like we should forgive ourselves for not standing up for ourselves in the past, right? So what needs to come into balance? The masculine, I'm just going to use man and woman, from the male side and the female side. What do you think needs to be rectified? Because again, when we're turning the fingers back on ourselves as the way that things move forward, and we are talking about forgiveness, another one is unite. I think another powerful tool to balancing things out is this uniting of the masculine and feminine within us. So what do you think is out of balance when we're looking at, generally speaking, men and women?
In society, the systems, just the systems of society are out of balance because they are very masculine leaning.
In what way? Like in the way that and who runs them, or like how it is run?
Both. I think greed and capitalism is very like a masculine, at the expense of, I mean, maybe it's not, but I think it is, like at the expense of the earth and resources and maybe life, like human life, in getting a product made and increasing profit margins and, enslaving children or raping the earth of its minerals, or, releasing lots of toxic stuff into the air or into our food and all of this stuff. I feel like that's not a feminine thing to do, not a nurturing thing to do. So I think just like there's a lot, I mean, there's obviously so much I'm grateful for about capitalism, but then the imbalances that were the greed and the lobbying that happens and the buying of politicians, and then they have to keep up. Like, I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole we got to go down. But so I think the domination of men in power that's obviously been enabled by a system that is created by men in power for, I don't know when that started. It's been eons, right? Feel that the new paradigm is like, we need to go back to that. There's a renaturing that has to happen. The masculine, patriarchy-driven system that we're living in has disconnected us from nature. And it's called Mother Nature because it's feminine. Like, so we are genetically modifying our food. We are genetically modifying our DNA at this point. Yeah, really. We are addicted to screens and not out in nature. Like we're denaturing ourselves, our food, and and then we're raping our planet. So we're denaturing nature. So I think that part of the big rebalancing is bringing that feminine approach and nurturing and love and holistic, realizing that everything's involved. We can't,
like a conscientiousness
and a connection to nature and each other that's missing right now because of this kind of masculine profit at all costs.
Bottom dollar.
We've been denatured by greed and industry. And this pressure, and we're seeing it in social media again, like win at all costs, get followers at all costs. And so now I think there's going to be, more females coming into power, into the current system before the system can change. And then also just as individually we become more balanced, doing the work of feminine and masculine, doing the forgiveness work, accepting ourselves, taking out our implants, whatever it is, then we'll see collectively, again, I just love this idea of like being more local, being more in community, and just that just feels more feminine and connected.
What do you think a woman's superpower is?
I know that one of them is bringing a frickin' life into this world. I know that's not for everybody, but we are like a portal for life. That's crazy.
Actually, yeah, I did an interview and somebody was like, well, the most straightforward portals, like a portal that you can create, is like a child. A child's a portal. And I was like, oh my God, totally.
I think our capacity to love and feel when shit goes down, lift a car off of a child, like we all have that maternal instinct, whether we have children or not. We feel this, it's our love. I think our superpower is love. And I mean, you are you came in with so many gifts and you love racing, you loved competing, but like your love for it drove you. Like your love for your curiosity is a version of love, I think our superpower is love. I think that, we love our children. We love our friends. We love our girlfriends. We love our husbands. We love our wives. We just love so greatly. And that allows us to do very powerful things.
What is it that a man needs to respect about a woman? And what is it a woman needs to respect about a man that's challenged right now that would bring us closer together?
Man, I think that men need to respect women's intelligence more, because I just feel like we have a subtle intelligence.
Like intuition.
Like
psychic abilities.
And empathy that will make us, I think, some of the best leaders in the world. And I think we're starting to get that shot where we haven't in history as much. But I think the intelligence that women have is a much more complex intelligence.
It's a different intelligence.
Different
It's a different
intelligence.
intelligence.
And I think that it can complement the intelligence and what men have been able to create. But it's a different intelligence, and it's time for that intelligence to step forward a little bit more. So if men, the smartest men, will recognize that and tap into that.
All right, now you got to flip it. I'm like a really, like I have so much Libra in me. I'm like, well, there's the man, but there's the woman. Like if we're going to talk about the patriarchy, we're talking about matriarchy. So what is it that we need to respect and honor about men that is challenged right now, that they do really well?
What's coming up for me is their ability to survive. Like when shit goes down, they step up. I mean, I know the men in my life do. And that is what I respect and admire. Again, I'm getting emotional. Why am I getting emotional? I just feel like times are freaking tough right now. And what I see with the men in my life is they don't sit around. They're not soft. You know, they're just like, I'm going to fucking figure it out. Excuse my French. There's some French that needs to happen right now because times are tough for everybody. And it's all relative, but like, the reason men are in power is because the burden's been on them to survive and keep the family unit protected in the wild. That's still in them, and that's, thank God for men in that way, you know? And again, just like you said, like we have these wounds as children that no longer are relevant. They're irrational at this point because we're bigger and more independent and can fend for ourselves. So we can let those go, and nature has changed. Like we live in these cities. We're not fighting saber-toothed tigers and warring tribes, but there's still that instinct to survive. And that's to be honored and respected. And I'm grateful for that, you know?
If you like this clip and you want to hear the whole episode, click at the bottom of your screen.